What's going on, Buffalo sports fans? Welcome back to Buffalo Sports Banter. As you can see today, it is just me. Unfortunately, Hunter could not make it today, but we still got a great show for you guys. So let's just get right into it. We got a lot of stuff to unpack, a lot with the Buffalo Bills today, so we're going to be focusing on them. Want to start it off though. Big shout out to all you guys who tune in all the time, listen all the time. Really appreciate you guys. Would really appreciate if you guys would like, comment, and subscribe to Built in Buffalo's page here. Great, really helps us out. Great guys doing a lot of different things, a lot of different shows and everything. So really would appreciate that. And yeah, appreciate all you guys. But we do have some news from the Buffalo Bills. So it's just me today, just gonna be doing it. But let's hop right in. I do want to start it off just with a couple things. There are some new signings. Buffalo Bills signed 3 players this past week. First one being Ty Johnson, running back. He did go out last year from a torn pec. He has recovered from that, but he didn't really play too much in 2022. But when he did, he was effective. He only had 30 carries, but he rushed for 5.3 yards per carry. Then it was a great season for him until obviously he had to come up short. But yeah, he's a 4.4 yards per carry player in the league, so he might have a chance. I know it's a little bit late in the season or late in the preseason for him to kind of make this push to make the roster. We'll see what happens there. But Ty Johnson joined in the running back room. Next up, the Buffalo Bills and Brandon Beane did actually add to the offensive line. They went out and got Garrick McGinn. He used to play with the XFL's Arlington Raiders, was on a few practice squads, including the Bills, but he's last active in the NFL in 2019 when he played for the Carolina Panthers. Last signing was a linebacker. They added to the linebacker room both spots, offensive line, linebacker, two positions that a lot of people were really hoping that they would make a move with. So that's what they did. They went out, got Deshaun White, linebacker. He was a former Oklahoma Sooner. He most recently played with the Michigan Panthers over in the USFL. He's a good guy in coverage, quick off the line, can win off the edge. But I haven't been able to see too much of his tape. But shout out to our guy Peter DiBiase over there. He does a great things with Built in Buffalo. So go check him out. But he came up with the notes for Deshaun White. So shout out to Peter. But yeah, he's from what Peter said, he's good in coverage. That's his best attribute is he's a great coverage guy. Quick off the line, quick first step. So we'll see what he can do. Obviously, there's already a lot of young guys fighting for that spot, for the linebacker spot with Bernard Dotson. Obviously, you got Doran Williams coming in, AJ Klein. You can go down the list. There's a lot of guys. So we'll see what happens with there. But 3 guys joining the roster late in preseason. We'll see what they can do. Hopefully, they can make their mark. Obviously, for the offensive line and linebacker, I think a lot of you guys would hope that they can make a mark, but we'll see. However, there was a game this past weekend, which is why a lot of us are saying that they need offensive line. They need, fix the tackles, fix the offensive line. So we're going to get into a little bit of preseason recap. I mean, the game itself wasn't, if you're a Bills fan, you don't want to watch it. It was pretty rough. I mean, a lot of turnovers, just bad penalties, 13 penalties in total. They ended up losing 27-15. So it's whatever. I mean, to me, it's a preseason game. A lot of people, I think, put too much into the preseason game. You just saw the Baltimore Ravens, their streak end at 25 games, I believe. And throughout that win streak in the preseason, they didn't win anything. So I think people put a little bit too much into preseason when it comes to hating or loving what team's doing or just criticizing them, or even the opposite. If say the Bills had a perfect game, people would look into it that much. And I get it. Everybody does it. I do it. Everybody you think of can possibly that does it, watches the sport. It's hard not to do. And these guys are fighting for their jobs. But at the end of the day, it's August. Once it hits September, once the first week comes around and the Bills are playing the Jets, nobody's going to care about this game. Nobody. I mean, I would like anybody to be able to say that they remember all 3 games from last preseason. I could probably, as soon as you turn it on, yeah, I would remember it. But no, I'm not remembering it off the bat. It's preseason. Everybody, let's take a step back, right? Take a step back. Say, all right, it's preseason. Yes, it was bad. It was really brutal, but there's still things to work on. They're going to be working on these things. McDermott wasn't happy, especially with the offensive line. But it is what it is, preseason. But the first thing I want to talk about with the preseason is the QB competition between Matt Barkley and Kyle Allen. Obviously, two guys on the outside. I know this picture's a little blurry. It is what it is, but not the guy in the middle. We know the guy in the middle. He's QB1. Hopefully, we don't even have to worry about who is QB2. But it's Matt Barkley, Kyle Allen. Week 1, Kyle Allen had the best or had the worst showing. Matt Barkley really showed out. This week, it was opposite. Matt Barkley really struggled. He had 4 total turnovers, 3 interceptions. Just didn't get the ball in the end zone, at least through the air. He went 7 for 12 for 93 yards. It was a rough game for him overall. I mean, it was a rough game for everybody overall, but for Barkley, it was one where going into this week, a lot of people thought QB2, Matt Barkley, it's locked up. But this week now it's wide back open. Now there's even talk from people saying, we got to go out and get somebody else for the backup, which I do understand. I will say it's another one of those things where, yeah, we would like to have a good quarterback too. But if your quarterback 1, especially a guy like Josh Allen, goes down, it's going to be rough either way. It's going to be a very, very big fall either way, because Josh Allen's a top 3 quarterback in the league, and there's not many backups, at least on the price tag that Kyle Allen and Matt Barkley have, that would want to come in playing for that. So it's one that I think this third week you'll really see, and now that Matt Barkley's day to day, who knows what's going to go on there. My guess would be Kyle Allen does end up being QB2 to start week 1, and Matt Barkley goes to the practice squad. But either way, I don't think it makes too much of a difference. Either way, you're just hoping you don't even have to see these guys on the field, just because you want Josh Allen out there. You want him to be able to sling the ball around, but we got to worry about it. Who's going to win this QB2 competition? It's been back and forth. There hasn't really been a clear winner yet, and now it's looking more like Kyle Allen has reinserted himself and said, no, I think this should be me. I should be the backup, even though Barkley's been here a little bit longer. So we'll see what happens there. QB2 battle, less important battle, I would say, for the team, but still, it's a huge one. But I want to also get into a little bit of the offensive line. Everybody's asking, is the offensive line a big concern? You obviously see these guys right here. Dion didn't look too great that this past week. Spencer Brown really struggled. So it's been a little tough for them. I mean, especially these two right here, Spencer Brown and Dion Dawkins. Spencer Brown, although I don't think he played as bad as people are saying he did, when you go back and watch the tape and you look at especially the block in the back penalty, it was kind of a ticky-tack penalty and didn't really need to be called. I think Spencer Brown played better than a lot of people thought. But I will say that with a grain of salt, it still is a concern. It's especially if Spencer Brown or Dion Dawkins goes down, there's not much behind him. And you could see a lot of trouble happening if one of them go down, and you could see a lot of trouble even if both of them are in there. Dion, I'm less concerned about. It's it's the preseason for everybody. They're getting ready for the regular season. Dion Dawkins is not one of the players that I'm really worried about. If it gets to week 1, 2, and 3, and he's really struggling, then I'll be worried. But Spencer Brown's really the one that I think everybody else is worried about as well. And look, I understand everybody wanting to blame Brandon Beane for not being more aggressive or whatever it is, but what more could you have done if you're Brandon Beane? What more could you have really done with the offensive tackles and right tackle, more specifically with Spencer Brown, at that price again? Because again, I know I keep bringing up price, but the Bills were in a very tough spot with money this offseason, and they didn't really spend. They didn't spend big anywhere. The wide receiver was their biggest addition, and they didn't really spend much because they couldn't. So right tackle, and here's the other thing with right tackles. I think people need to maybe understand a little more, and I think it's something that a lot of teams struggle with, because it's a problem for a lot of teams, is the fact that high-end tackles, are so hard to come by in the NFL now. And you look at the tackles around the league, most teams have one good tackle. Very rarely do they have 2 very good tackles. And it's just one of those positions that teams struggle to bring in. They've struggled to bring in consistently as well. You see a lot of tackles, except for the high-end ones. You see a lot of them go in and year out. It depends on the scheme. It depends on how they're playing. A lot of things can affect the offensive line. So for Spencer Brown, am I concerned? A little bit, not majorly. I have bigger questions at other positions. So I'm not really too concerned about that. It's one of those positions where, yeah, we would hope that you can get above average to elite play there, but it's hard to come by. It's just it's a hard position to find, and you could say all you want about being needed to be more aggressive. Other teams have done it, but it's just that's how the nature of the NFL. You see it all the time with teams struggling to get those tackles and get tackles that can stay healthy. Because even look at the backups, right? Where can they really go from here? Not sure where specifically they can go. So it's gonna be a topic, I think, going all the way throughout the season, especially if Spencer Brown does struggle. It's gonna be a huge conversation during trade deadline. Do they go out and get somebody? Do they go out and get somebody in the next week? Who teams are making cuts? There might be guys that, Bean sees that says, oh, they might be on the outside looking in with their team. Whether it's the Cardinals, I've seen them thrown around a little bit. The Bears, I've seen them thrown around a little bit. Do they depart with one of their tackles that maybe could make an impact in Buffalo? We'll see with that. I think Bean does have a history of being aggressive with trades right at the end of preseason and going into the regular season, whether it's trading away a player for a pick or trading for a player. I think you've seen him be aggressive before, and I wouldn't be shocked if he ends up being aggressive again. So it's going to be a big topic. We'll see if they end up making a move. I would guess that they're not going to make a move. It's just it doesn't make sense to give up a pick for a guy like Beachum from Arizona and say, yeah, he's 100% throughout the whole season going to be significantly better than Spencer Brown. Or in Chicago, I think it's Borum. I forget his first name, but Borum, the tackle there, another young guy. Who says that this preseason, the grades they're putting up in preseason or how they're playing in preseason is going to transfer over to the regular season? Nobody really knows, so it's going to be a big question mark, especially because Josh Allen, we got to keep him healthy, right? They got to keep him healthy. You want to minimize the amount of hits he's taking, and if the tackles are struggling, especially against elite pass rushers like the Bills are going to be playing some this year, it's going to be a worry. It's going to be a concern because you don't want your star quarterback taking a hit. So offensive line, I'm concerned with it, but I wouldn't say I'm panicked or I'm going to freak out because I'm thinking that Josh Allen's going to get injured through the season. He knows he has a good pocket presence. I think this offensive line, it's still early, like we said, with the preseason. At the end of the day, these games, nobody remembers really how people play too much in these games, besides the guys that are fighting for roster spots, fighting for playing time, which I guess you could say Spencer Brown is, but it's just it's going to be a long season if Spencer Brown can't pick it up at least a little bit. And he needs to at least show the signs that he can be a solid right tackle in this league. And I'm not going to give up on him yet. But this is the year. It's his third year. He needs to do it. He needs to show it. He had the injury last year that people kind of said, okay, maybe that affected it. This year, if he's healthy, he's got to play well. We'll see if he does. But let's move on to the playmakers on the offensive side of the ball. There were a couple playmakers that went out and showed they can really make some plays. And the two that I want to talk about are one guy that we've been talking about all training camp, and the other guy who's been talked about all offseason, especially because he was just drafted. But it's starting to pick up more now that we're starting to see him play. We'll start with Kincaid, Dalton Kincaid. He made some good plays last game. He's showing what the Bills drafted him for. A guy that can just get open. And you saw it in this past preseason game. I think you're going to see it week one. I know tight ends. I should probably be somebody that takes it back a little bit with rookie tight ends. I know rookie tight ends can struggle, but he just looks like he's going to be an elite tight end, in my opinion, sooner rather than later. I don't see it happening in year 3, 4, 5. I see it happening late in year 1, year 2. I just he knows the game. He knows how to get open. Him and Josh are going to be. He's going to be one of Josh's favorite targets. Josh loves those guys that can just catch the ball, get open, get it out quick. I think you're going to see him used a lot. He showed it this preseason game against the Steelers a little bit, and I think you're going to continue to see it more and more each week as he learns the playbook, as he gets connections with Josh, and as the Bills say, this guy they drafted him for a reason. They traded up for him for a reason. You've heard Brandon Bean. You heard how excited he was. This might be the most excited he's probably ever been. I've seen, at least for a prospect, and it's exciting to see a guy that could become Josh Allen's number 2, number 3 weapon on this offense, depending on how the guy next to him in this picture does, Gabe Davis. And that's another guy that I wanted to talk about real quick. He's been hyped up all camp. There's some talks about him maybe getting extended. I know a lot of people are still skeptical on him. I'm on the defense of him that saying, he did play through an injury last year. It was a tough year for him. He a lot of people were disappointed, but I think he's going to turn around this year. You saw it even in the game in the game against the Steelers in the preseason. Yes, some of them got called back as penalties, but that's not Gabe's fault. He made plays, he got open, he got the ball, and he caught it. I think you're going to see, and again, you're not going to see him catch 95% of the balls. You're not going to see him catch 90%. It's still going to be something that he maybe struggles with a little bit, but I think you're going to see that drop percentage go down. I think you're going to see him utilized in different ways instead of just running 3-4 routes like we saw last year. And, you even saw Patrick Peterson say it last year against the Bills after he had the game-winning interception that Gabe Davis only runs a few routes. I think you're going to see him run a lot more routes this year. I think you're going to see him utilized a lot more. I think Ken Dorsey is learning and understanding. I got all these guys that can do a bunch of different things, whether it's Sherfield, Hardy, Davis, Diggs, Cook, Knox, Kincaid. Just down, you have weapons. You can move them around the field. You can use them in ways that maybe even the defense wouldn't expect. I think you're going to see Ken Dorsey open up the playbook a lot more this season. I think you're going to see a lot more of Gabe Davis, and I think you're also going to see a lot of Dalton Kincaid right out the gates. I think him and Dawson Knox are going to be a great duo, and I think this offense is going to roll. So for me, the only concern offensively is, like we talked about, the offensive line. Is it a major concern to me? No. But am I concerned? Yes. We have to see it improve, at least improve week in, week out. You have to get a little bit better. This next preseason game, got to be a little bit better. Week 1, a little bit better than this last preseason game coming up. So I'm not concerned about this offense. I know a lot of people are very concerned. People saying, especially when they sign McGinn, the offensive lineman I talked about a little earlier. I just think I think we're seeing a little too much. I don't want to use the word hate, but I think we're seeing a little too much criticism about this offense when it was a top tier offense in the league. It's still upgraded from last year. I no matter what anybody says, it upgraded. Offensive line is upgraded. Weapons are upgraded. And I think you're going to see a lot healthier offense as well. Like I said, with Gabe Davis, or even, Josh, he's now got some time to rest that elbow. Now he's back in it. Obviously, he's been training camp and everything, but the whole offseason, you got to rest the elbow. Everybody got to, get healthy again. So I think the offense will be fine. And there's one more guy I want to talk about the offense who I think solidified it that he's not going to the practice squad at the end of this camp. I would have been shocked either way, but that is Justin Shorter. I'm excited about him. I was excited when they drafted him. He wasn't a guy that, was on a lot of people's radars coming out of college. He's a big body guy. He catches the ball. That was his one thing coming out of college. He catches the ball. And that's the one thing I think Bills Mafia should be excited about. I don't know if you're going to see him a lot early on. I would I'd be very shocked if he has a big role in this offense, especially to start unless somebody goes down. But I think he can be a guy that, makes some plays. They'll probably have him on special teams a little bit. And if somebody needs a break, go put in Shorter. He's a different type of receiver than the Bills have. I guess you could say Gabe Davis is a big receiver, but he's not Justin Shorter big. Justin Shorter is a big dude. I mean, if you guys ever go to a game, go try to get close and go see how big he is, because he is massive. So Justin Shorter, he had a great game on I blanking on which day, but against the Steelers, ended up having 5 catches on 6 targets for 47 yards and a touchdown. I think he's officially locked himself in place to make the roster, and we'll see what his role is coming up. But yeah, the offense, I'm excited for it. Let's move on a little bit to the defense. And there's one guy I do want to talk about, and I have been talking about him all off season. I've been saying the same thing all season. Dorian Williams led the team again in tackles. let him again 2 straight preseason weeks. And I know he's probably playing more than some other linebackers and some other players, but it's a good sign for a young guy to be going and making plays no matter what. If they're bad or good, he's getting in there and he's trying to, make plays and learn. So I'm excited for Dorian Williams. He's a guy that I loved coming out of college. Fast, gets the ball. His instincts in college, just it seemed like wherever the ball was, he was going to end up there. He's going to track you down. I like what he can bring to the table. I was a little shocked when they said that he wasn't going to be working middle linebacker early on, because I kind of thought that's why they drafted him, was to have him learn that spot. I think they should, and that's the question that I have right here. Should he be getting more reps? In my opinion, 100%. I think he should be a guy that they try to work in more. I say it all the time with rookies. I know the Bills like to kind of bring them in slowly, but you've seen other teams not do that and it work out great. The Chiefs are the perfect example last season. They had so many rookies that, yeah, maybe they struggled to start the season. Maybe they struggled early on in their career. But by the time it got to the playoffs, by the time it got to late season, they were ready because they were able to go out and make those mistakes. And I think Dorian Williams needs to be a guy that they need to do that with. Let him go out and make a few mistakes, but hell, let him go learn. Let him go play next to Milano, get used to that defense. I would love to see him, because Dotson hasn't really been a guy that I'm sold on. I'm not sold on him. Bernard is a guy that I'm still curious about. I still want to see more of him. I think he could be a great linebacker in this league as well. But Dorian Williams, in my opinion, needs to get more. He just needs to. So we'll see what happens with Dorian Williams if he gets more playing time. But I just wanted to talk about him for just a second. He needs more playing time. That's all I'll say. But next guy I want to talk about, Gregory Rousseau. He's actually the last individual player that I'm going to talk about for today. Greg Rousseau, he ended up having a great game again against the Steelers. He had 1 sack, 2 tackles for loss, 3 total tackles. I'm expecting a breakout season. That's the question that I have right here. Are you guys expecting a breakout season from him? Because I'm expecting big things. He had 4 sacks his rookie year, 8 sacks this past year. I'm expecting double-digit sacks this year. I think with the addition of Leonard Floyd, with the Von Miller going to be coming back from that injury, and now him going into another year, Epinesa being a guy that can get after the quarterback. Yes, Epinesa struggles with taking down the quarterback and finishing the plays, but he gets to him. So it still puts pressure on that offensive line on the other side of the ball. But Greg Rousseau is a guy that I'm excited to see. I'm hoping that they end up playing him and having him rush the passer a lot more than guys like Leonard Floyd, or, I mean, maybe not Von Miller, but Epinesa, Basham. I want to see him on the field. I want to see him moved around. I want to see him inside, outside. I want to see him just wreaking havoc, because I'm fully aboard the Greg Rousseau train. I'm fully aboard it. I think he can do great things this year. So we'll see about him. Before we get into the question that of the day, I'm going to do it with you guys instead of us, because Hunter's not here. But it's about, we got to talk about it. Stefon Diggs. It's pretty complicated, but we got to talk about it. First, Stephen A. on his show comes out and says that Stefon Diggs wants out of Buffalo. Says that he has his sources, right? Has them. A few hours later, Diggs tweets out, it's 100% false. It's not true. He's riding with Bill's Mafia, and that's what he wants to do. So I'm going to believe Diggs in that sense. And then all of a sudden today, Stephen A. comes back, doubles down on what he's saying, says Diggs wasn't the source, but 2 people close to Diggs says he's not feeling Buffalo because they missed their window. And then he decides to finish it off by saying either Diggs didn't want people to know, he changed his mind, or he needs to talk to the people close to him that are saying these things. I hope this is the last time we have to talk about this, but I know it's not going to be. It's really exhausting that these national media outlets are going to talk about this all day and all day. Because if we're actually being honest, the question for Stephen A. was not about the Bills. He just happened to bring them in and start talking about the problems with the Bills, even though, in my opinion, there's teams that have bigger problems than Stefon Diggs missing 1 excused practice. 1. And I think I speak for a lot of Bills fans here in saying that we're really tired of just people talking about this and making it something that it isn't. And I think Diggs tweeting that is him saying the same thing, saying, I'm sick of having to come out and say this. I want to be in Buffalo. He said it less than a month ago. He wants to retire in Buffalo. So I'm going to believe Diggs on this one. I'm going to believe the man himself, instead of a guy who I love Stephen A, but he's got to stick to basketball, in my opinion. He's just got to do it, and you've seen it time after time where I mean, a lot of high end media people do this, especially they're trying to get views. People do it all the time, and I'm not gonna hate on Stephen A for specifically trying to do something like this. It's more just we thought we were done with it. We thought we were done with this topic, and then it was brought up again. I'm gonna say Diggs wants to be in Buffalo. I know he wants to be in Buffalo, and until he says he doesn't want to be, until he demands a trade, I'm gonna believe that he wants to be in Buffalo. Now, with all that said, I do think there's always gonna be that part of Diggs where I wouldn't be shocked if he came out in a year and the Bills get knocked out of the first round of the playoffs, or don't make the playoffs, or get blown out again in the second round, and he comes out and says this. I wouldn't be shocked because again, Diggs does have obviously I don't want to say reputation, but the history of demanding a trade. But I don't know where it would get him because Stephon Diggs knows that the Bills physically cannot trade him for the next 2 years. They just can't. So I'm gonna be on the side saying that Diggs does want to be here. He wants to be in Buffalo. He wants to play with Josh Allen. So I'm gonna be fully on board that, and I really think that it's just something again that people are saying just to get either a rouse out of Bills fans or whatever it is. But I just don't see it to be true, and I don't think that Stephon Diggs wants out. But we shall see. We shall see. So I know this was kind of a quicker episode. It was just me today. I kind of went on a huge spiel there, kind of jumped from one thing to the next. But again, I appreciate you guys coming out. But we're gonna get into my history question real quick before we finish it off. So you guys can leave the answers down below. See if you know the answer. We'll answer it next week with Hunter, and I'll ask Hunter the same exact question to start the show, and we'll give the answer to start the show. But we talked about the offensive line. We talked about the offensive line struggling. So my question to everybody is, who was the last offensive lineman the Buffalo Bills selected in the first round? Let us know down below. Let us know if you know the answer. If you do, don't look it up. I want to know if you look it up. I won't actually, but it's cheating. So let's see if who can get it. See if you can think about it. I think a lot of people could get it. It's not too tough of a question. But we'll see how many of you guys get it. So again, thanks you guys for tuning in. This is another episode of Buffalo Sports Banter. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe down below. We'll see you guys next week. Hunter should be back next week. I know we've been kind of on a crazy schedule. We both, are just switched jobs and everything. So we're getting used to the schedule. We should have it out more regularly on a regular basis soon, especially with the season starting. So thank you guys for tuning in as always. And we'll see you next time.